I watched The Beekeeper. About 10, 15 minutes in the movie, I texted you and I was like, Joe, I'm watching the funniest movie I've ever seen. It's called The Beekeeper. You have to watch it. The next day, Joe texted me. He's like, I'm watching The Beekeeper. I cannot stop laughing. And I want to say out of the gate, it's not supposed to be a funny movie. It's an action movie.
Right.
Also, us laughing at it is not like making fun of the movie.
No.
It is just like joyous, silly action at just such a fun, frenetic level. It makes not that much sense. I think it's about a guy that used to be part of a secret sort of society of like killers called the Beekeepers, and they protect the hive or whatever. And then one of his friends gets killed, and then he burns down the country to avenge this person, basically.
Well, it's his sacred duty is to protect the hive. It's his
sacred duty. Okay?
It's part of America. There's one person always alive called the Beekeeper, and this person's job is to protect the hive. And whenever this person deems the hive out of whack, they're allowed to take matters into their own hands extrajudiciously, which Statham does.
It's a Statham shoot 'em up, Statham versus the world, but oh my god, it is so much fun and so funny. Can you tell us some of your favorite parts of The Beekeeper?
This is the funniest movie I have seen in maybe a decade, and it's the best kind of laugh because it's a laugh where I wasn't laughing because it's not a funny movie. It's an action movie, and it's not an action movie that's like really bad, like The Room. So it's that kind of laugh. No. It's just like at a certain point, what you're watching sort of like catches up with your brain, and then you just sort of start to laugh. And then the movie starts to lay it on thick, and they just keep like dolloping out these little plot points and details about like the situation here, that they kicked the nest and they've angered a beekeeper and there's nothing they can do about it. This gets up to the highest levels of the government. Jeremy Irons plays like, I don't know, the Secretary of the Defense or something, and he gets embroiled in evoking the beekeeper's ire, and he's the whole entire time hilariously just reiterating over and over again that there's nothing they can do. They are fucked beyond measure. There's nothing they can do. The beekeeper is coming. They're fucked. That's it. It's over. And as the plot sort of like bubbles up into your brain, there was like a 20-minute stretch when I was convulsing on the floor, like grabbing my stomach. I had to pause it. I was crying. I was alone. You know how hard it is to laugh alone at movies. And it started becoming a blend of joy and a blend of euphoria and a blend of just like silliness. I went to a secret movie marathon this weekend, and the thrill of the movies they showed was like, they're movies from the 80s, and the audience was enjoying a great kind of laugh. They're like, oh my God, that action idea was so bloated and so big, and how did they get from A to B? And everybody craved those, oh my God, ha 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 laughs. And they came in fits and spurts, but The Beekeeper has them in spades. It's a beautiful kind of laugh. It's so enjoyable. Statham is an amazing man that we've talked about a lot on this podcast randomly, but I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of this guy, Brett.
Yeah.
Amazing recommendation. And this is a real recommendation.
This is a real.
You didn't see Challengers? Okay, cool.
Watch
Beekeeper first.
You'll have a blast.
Beekeeper first.
You'll have a blast. And here's what I want to say about The Beekeeper. An example of what's so funny and enjoyable about it is I watched it. I no joke watched it 3 times this past week because I had to keep reliving some of the moments in it. This movie, my current take is, I think this movie might be some sort of like psyop by like the International Society of bee preservationists, because there is like a movie like this. All you got to do is have one line of like Amy and I going into it. Literally, our first question was like, I was like, I wonder how hard they're gonna hit the beekeeper thing. They hit it so hard. The opening credits, behind the opening credits is like a montage of old books that tells you like the history of bees. And I was like, we looked at each other, we're like, oh, they're hitting it hard. They're hitting it
like,
so hard.
He's a secret agent, but also he is an actual beekeeper.
I literally think this was like produced by some some bee society that wanted like the public to like pay more attention to bees. Is the only way I can explain it, because interspersed constantly throughout this movie is like real talk about bees and like beekeepers and how hives work over and over again. There's a scene where Jeremy Irons has to just like brief this team of killers about like, hey, like literally all I have to do is go like, hey, this is Jason Statham, the guy you're looking for. Go kill him. He's going to be at this place at this time. Instead, he goes, so in the hive, bees are tricky creatures, some of God's most intricate creatures, and sometimes when there's he goes off on bees. This is halfway through the movie. This is like the 5th time we've had a monologue about bees and how bees work. I fucking love this movie so much. It's so much fun, so funny.
Brett, the whole time I was like, and just wait till he uses the bees to seek vengeance. Never uses the bees as a weapon. No. He actually just walks into like a building at one point, 2 points actually, and he just casually walks in with gasoline, dumps it everywhere, says something about gotta fix the hive, and just sort of torches whole entire buildings.
In fact, the only reason that the bad guys realize that he's like a beekeeper, as in like one of these like crazy killers, is that he had retired and become a literal beekeeper.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think he was a literal beekeeper before too, because at one point,
what's the chicken or egg? Which came first?
At one, it's like both.
The secret society or the.
He was like born into it. I don't know. At one point though, like he has to get his secret phone to call the secret order or whatever, and he pulls up like a hive, and it's secretly like in the bees. Like I feel like it's all part and parcel of. Now we've both watched this movie multiple times this week. We still don't really understand what's going on.
But there's a moment where Josh Hutcherson from The Hunger Games, who's very funny in this.
He's so funny in this.
He's very funny. He's like a little Nepo baby who's ripping off everybody in America, and then he's the guy that Jason Statham's really trying to like kill. He tells Jeremy Irons, right, who's kind of his like protector, like
it's like it's his uncle.
It's his uncle.
And protector, right?
Yeah. He tells him like this guy like we went to like this guy showed up at the call center. Also, they picked the best villain that anybody on any airplane in America is immediately going to be like, oh yeah, fuck these guys. The villains are these Wolf of Wall Street losers who run this call center that just
scamming old people,
scams old people out of
fuck
money.
Them.
Yeah,
and they're really like dressed like millennially, and they're like being dicks about it.
You get to watch them all just slaughtered.
And the beekeeper exacts so much vengeance.
So there's a scene where the beekeeper has like blown up one of these call centers, and Josh Hutcherson is like gets a couple clues about him or something from one of the guys that survived, and one of the clues is like he's like, yeah, he kept talking about like protecting the hive, and he's like a beekeeper, and then so Josh Hutcherson tells Jeremy Irons, yeah, it's like the guy who blew up the hive, blew up the call center, he's like some kind of beekeeper, and then Jeremy Irons was like, he's a beekeeper.
He's like, yeah, I don't know. He said he was a beekeeper.
Oh no, you messed with a beekeeper, and then we realized that the beekeeper is this secret society or whatever. But the only way the link is made is because he's also a literal beekeeper.
Right.
It's a great movie. Go watch it. Go watch The Beekeeper.
It's so funny, and
it's so much fun.
We are purposefully not spoiling 3 of the funniest details that you get like at the halfway point, and I just don't want to say.
We're not spoiling anything.
Please watch this movie.
We debated like would it be fun to just like list like just describe every scene in The Beekeeper on the podcast, and we're like, no, we don't want to spoil it for anyone.
Joyous recommendation.
Yes, watch The Beekeeper.